Good afternoon. Hello. Nice to meet you, Professor Mahynour Ahmed. My name is Rosario Maccarone. I'm head of student services here at OPIT. So we are here today to discuss a little bit about cybersecurity. I would say it's nice to have you here, Professor. And I would like to start this conversation with you introducing yourself, your background, your experience.
Hi, Rizar. It's a pleasure meeting you. This is Professor Mahynour. I'm here with the OPI team. I am actually a cybersecurity expert. This year has been my 16th year in the field. Over the years, I passed through a lot, starting from just Windows XP, and we start that all over. We have now Windows 11. My target and passion in life is actually how to secure stuff, how to not just being a normal person and then we suffer from attacks. So I'm holding a multiple cybersecurity certifications just to figure out what's going on in the market. I honored to be the Ethical Hacker Hall of Fame winner this year for 2025, and this means I'm one of the top 100 worldwide who is holding this certificate. I'm also having a master degree in criminal justice concentrated in cybersecurity, and it's dedicated into part of the forensics, part of to understand the gap between the technical part versus is that actually illegal activity or it might be illegal activity. So you watch out while you are doing your technicality versus the real life that we have now.
Awesome. So, first of all, congratulations for your Hall of Fame recognition. You've been nominated multiple times in the past. Is this your first win?
Yeah, this is my first one, and I got nominated 3 years in a row.
Great, great. Congratulations.
Thank
We're
you.
happy as well.
Thank you.
So, you teach, at the moment, you teach two courses, right, at OPIT. And the courses are both in the Master in Enterprise Cybersecurity, and one of the two is an elective course in our Bachelor in Computer Science. So, with your extensive expertise in cybersecurity and intrusion detection, and your ethical hacker posture, let's say, can you tell me a little bit how do you, and if you teach our students how to maybe adopt the mindset of an attacker to build a better defense in a system, or and how you know try to figure out what a potential attacker think can help someone that needs to secure a system.
Yeah, so the way we introduce the courses to the students is a little bit different than just a mock or a book, and then you can read it anywhere else. It doesn't matter. So this is always like, for example, let's take a topic. So all of us know what is a virus is, what is a worm is, whatever it is, right? Everyone knows this stuff. For me, this the way I explain it in the lecture is forget about the virus. Where are you going to see it in the real life? Might be an
Mhm.
email, and this is the shape you're gonna see it as an email attachment, because at the end, the reason that the student came to you that he wanna be in the field, not
Right.
to have the certificate. Anyone can get the certificate, but the thing is he wanna land on a job. So he has to understand where is that in the real life. So this is the way we actually architect our courses. It's a little bit not a theoretical. It's very rare to give them a book and this is the exam. This is not the way OPIT is working. It's actually this is what you're gonna see in life. This is how you're gonna pass your interview. Even the assessment, the way we do the assessment is you now learned about an attack types and how you're gonna defend. Choose a scenario. You are now in the hat of an attacker. Choose a scenario. Come attack me. Let me know how you engineering wise is thinking. Better than just ask him which port is gonna be HTTP or HTTPS. This is not the way we need our students to be. And that's you can feel it more even not only in the network security, you can feel it more in the course of forensics for the master level,
Yeah.
where it's actually based on 50% pure practical lecture, other than the normal lectures that you do have in the course, because at the end you want to be landing on a forensics job. So I cannot just give you a book and then I tell you go fish somewhere else, right? This is how you're gonna see the evidence. This is how you're gonna figure out where this thing that's gonna work or not working. And this is honestly, I like it in OPIT, the way the OPIT is designed. It's not just you go, you take a book, you put the PDF in your hard drive, and then you forget everything once you graduate, to be very
Right.
honest. So it make it easier for us even to deliver the concepts. So any student who come to OPIT.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks. This is very interesting, and in many fields, of course, this is central to OPIT philosophy. Hands-on and the ability to generate skills that are useful in the job market, linked with the theoretical knowledge that is needed. So this is great. So I'm curious about the given your background as well, and the name of the course AI, the other course that you teach, AI-driven forensic analysis in cybersecurity. Of course, we are immersed in an AI
You're right. Yeah.
world in a way, let's say. And I'm as a non-technical person and someone that reads the news and try to stay, updated to what is happening in the world. We hear a lot about deep fakes, deep fake videos, or for example, mm, automated malware attacks. That it seems that this AI supercharged the attackers as well somehow. So how do we counteract this?
It's science. It's science versus science. Now it's the game became science versus science. It's the same chat GPT that you are going to use to attack me. The same chat GPT, I'm gonna use the Kali model on the same chat GPT as an ethical person just to relieve it. Just to give you a quick example, your password, if it's stored by something we call it MD5, for example, right?
Mhm.
And there is programs to reverse that hash.
Mhm.
AI will do it in for you in just few minutes, because the challenge that we used to have is actually the computing level, the processor, the computer, the money I should invest in having a very big lab, right? Now this
Yeah.
is stored already in the vendor. So I'm not paying anything, I'm just gonna do the chat. So you as an attacker are gonna do the chat. I'm as an ethical person gonna do the same the same chat, but on a reverse action to prevent you.
Right.
But in challenges you mentioned, and the biggest challenges came when a cyber crime came, that what if those information or that video that you just mentioned was AI generated? How can you identify that easily? There is some stuff. How can you reverse engineering this video that's been generated or the picture that's been generated? We all know in the era where our excessive use in AI in anything, especially social media, we're a level we actually don't know is this news is actually a right news or it's AI generated news, right? And then for the normal people might be a challenge, but for the
Right.
people that's in the field, this is where they're gonna start back to science, asking for expert to come and to help us. Could you please identify as this is a real news or not, right? So this is actually part of our new challenge, our new life. We used to be just to secure a hard drive, then it's expanded to cloud computing. Now it's coming for AI as well. So now you are in the field of cybersecurity, but in an EI era.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is we have to stick to science and we have to stick to the principles and just apply them in a broader context and with more powerful machines.
That's right. It's whenever you're ready, then this is where it's not gonna take time with you to just understand the concept, understand and to move with the flow, right? At the start, when we just had a mobile phone, we thought that there is something wrong. We used just to have this phone as I'm gonna walk with a device in the street. Like today, everyone has his phone in his hand, and we start thinking about the chip to be underneath your skin, so you just tap and you don't have to think about that carrying a phone. Just move with the flow, right? And just we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Maybe everything will be on a satellite and we just don't need to carry anything in our life. Who knows?
Right. Right. Okay, so let me jump to another topic. I mean, I moved by my own curiosity mainly with these questions, so bear with me.
Yeah.
I'm always been fascinated by the idea of testing a system in order to prevent weaknesses and liabilities. So penetration testing for an informatics system for a company, how important is that, and how common is? So I'm coming from Italy. We have, for example, an economic uh, environment that is composed mainly by small companies, right? That may not have cybersecurity at the center of their priorities, and but this is very important. How common is that companies take this into account before an incident happen, and how much should they do it in your opinion?
So it's definitely they have to do it, but I'm gonna tell you it's no more an option. So EU now has forced a something called CRA Act,
Okay.
as one mistake will cost you maybe the company. So
Okay.
once you deliver a product, and that product is based on a digital environment, you are regulated under this act. So you have to do everything you have in your hand to secure your system. One of those steps, what we call it SDLC policy, a policy for development, which means someone will write a code, then someone has to protect the code. Once you're
Hmm.
done, there should be an engineer coming and penetrate this code and see where is the vulnerabilities and give you recommendations. Those recommendations you have to deploy before you go for production. Otherwise, if you caught doing a breach, caught giving harm to someone, get ready, you're gonna be sued very soon, and the fine is extremely high. The way it's being put by EU is extremely high. It's no more fun. So cybersecurity
Okay.
now is just a law you have to follow. It used to be for fun, used to be I don't have fund, and they give you the option B, you don't have it, then go for a non-internal developed solutions. Go purchase a solution and they will do the rest of the work. But even if, as you mentioned, in Italy it's small shops or small companies, it's still under the law. You're still under the radar. You have to follow. So
Right.
cybersecurity is now taking the lead when it came to anything digital because of our life, because of with every minor now, it's with every teenager now, and that falls under responsibility for us as an adult to just secure those kids.
Okay, great. So I will mark this down because this is very important in general, and it brings the field to a different level of prominence. I would say so. Uh, I'm sure that cybersecurity roles and cybersecurity expertise will be more and more central, and our students will be having or looking for good outcomes after their studies. So my one more thing again. This is I already discussed this with another of our faculty members. As a non-technical person that is immersed in technology every day, all day long, it's all often hard to speak the same language, right? And to understand the concept or the need uh, of the technical side of things and how important they are in everyday work life. Is there a way, or how do you teach students to communicate to management, C-suite level or whatever, CEOs, the importance of this?
So I will tell you something. The courses in OPIT is based on I consider you have a zero information regarding cybersecurity, and I start taking that from with me all the way up until we reach our final target. So I expect you speak only English. That is all what I need you to have English, and have time for me to stay, attend the lecture, and in giving it an online option so you don't have to sit live with me in the lecture, right? So if they need to reach for C level or anything, they are also not expecting you to be a high-tech person who has six-figure salary and all that stuff. The way OPIT itself is being structured, that we're giving a chance to anyone to enter the field. So even sometimes the first three lectures for me, I'm talking about myself, is basics. I'm just giving basics. What is the layers of the information when it travels through the court? Just to let you understand with me, when I one day say the attack came from this port, you connect it to the device, you know how that happened, and you understand with me. And the way, honestly, I like it with OPIT is flexibility. So let's say, for example, I have cohort, and those people are high-tech people in the field for at least 10 years. And they came in a master level. They are not juniors, they are not intermediate even. I will go up with them in the live sessions. And this is actually one of the examples for this course for AI forensics. They are very good court. I took them with me up to the law enforcement training and forensics. Why not? They are ready. I'm ready. The faculty is just supporting us. Why not? So let's go over it. For example, this week we are gonna work on a 4 laptops in parallel, trying to figure a mystery. And is that considered an expert level of forensics? But when they need to talk to C level, they don't have to see all of that. They just need to talk English. Send an email in English at any time. Your tutor will help you. If not, go ahead and reach out to the department manager. He's happy to help. Go for the director. Feel free to reach to anyone. We are here to help, right? Even if it's just personal matter, you need to just extend or expand the time for your submission, for your assessment, for example, right? We are humans. We all have up and downs in our life, but always don't go back in your mind thinking they will not accept me because I'm just a student and they are just a director and it's different. This is not honestly what I saw personally within OPIT.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let me ask you one last question. It's if you have to pick one skill or one, how can I say, habit maybe that students should develop or work on today, that will allow them to maintain their expertise up to date, or that does not become obsolete too soon for their career, what this skill or habit would be?
I would say to be persistent. Just make the job in a small parts, but be persistent. I'm gonna do it today. I have a headache today. Do it tomorrow, but I'm gonna do it. Small part, but make sure you have to achieve them. Technology is 3 years, 5 years maximum. The same that's gonna expire for you is gonna expire for me, it's gonna expire for your colleague. So we are in the same bundle. Nothing gonna be stay the same. So what are you suffering from is also what we are suffering from. It just how persistent you're gonna be to just take yourself up, and then you start building your future and not thinking of the past. And you think everyone here might deal with like Windows XP? It's already gone. It's no more in life, right? But now we can deal with Windows 10. It's happened. We can deal with Windows 11, and it's coming for all of us, right? So just put in mind that nothing is permanent, and just make it small parts, proceed toward it, and be very persistent with your target.
Great. Thank you very much, Professor. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it's actually my pleasure to you. Thank you.